Our good friend Kevin Ryans joins us. We were talking about the perks of signing day that's coming up here, and just how much things have changed seemingly in an instant. And that's where I want to start with Missouri, not with the signing team, not with the signing day, but how things have changed so fast. This was a team that was chasing a college football playoff spot, just 21 days ago, and obviously Bo Pribula gets injured, a couple of losses, and now this team's in a different space. I always like to ask this about teams that have high expectations going into a year, and even as the year goes, where they stand now. As you take a look at this Missouri football team from a morale standpoint and everything else, where do you see this Missouri Tiger football team?
I got to imagine that they're definitely a little deflated after the loss to Texas A&M. That's 3 games against those top 10 opponents, 3 losses, and all of them have their kind of excruciating way that they lost the game. So I'm sure that they're down, but knowing Eli Drinkwitz as we have here in Missouri over the last 6 years or so, those players aren't going to stop playing. They're going to continue moving forward. I think the goals are going to be switching up a little bit for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're already bowl eligible, so they have the 6 wins. It's about maybe try to get as good of a game as possible. Try to play well during those final 3 games of the year, and get to 9 wins. I think those things are going to be very important. Is how do you continue to stay consistent and stay motivated, even though maybe the big playoff isn't in the picture anymore.
Absolutely. We saw Matt Zollers come in after Pribula gets injured, and he steps in at Vanderbilt, and from a confidence standpoint, from a look standpoint, he looks the part. Obviously, he's a very young football player. What'd you make of him now having an entire week to prepare and then getting out on the field?
I think he was very nervous on Saturday.
Yeah.
You can tell by some of the throws that he was making. He was throwing so hard. It was just almost, he was slinging it like crazy. And of course, the numbers reflected that 7 of 22, 77 passing yards. Of course, when you have a high-level team like Texas A&M, to be expected that the level of play is going to ratchet up, and you have to be able to scheme a little bit better, and you have to be able to have a offensive game plan that goes with the young freshman. But you could definitely see the nerves for sure. And you almost would have liked it better if you would have had the mentality with the Vanderbilt game. The Vanderbilt, he was, he had no time to really think. He had to go out there and he just go out and play. And that's when he was just calm and cool and poised, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So unfortunate that this is the case with Missouri. Their top 2 quarterbacks that they had going into the season each have injuries, and now they're kind of resorted to this. But a learning lesson for sure from Matt Zollers, who the team feels is the future of the program. So obviously, good way to get experience here, and now he knows what those big giant game, preparing to start, going out there on the day, and going out there playing a full game. Now he knows that, and that's certainly propel him forward going into the future.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Coach Drink on his freshman QB.
Yeah, he got off to a really slow start. We didn't do a good enough job getting him comfortable throwing the football. Completions were tough. They were challenging every throw. But I thought he did a nice job of, trying the deep ball, which created some pass interference calls. I thought Donovan had a couple of big catches. But ultimately, we got to do a better job with a freshman quarterback protecting him. There can't be free runners on him, and that happened too many times on third downs. And obviously, one of the serious momentum changes of the game. So.
Kevin, it feels like for the second straight year, we're talking about another what seems to be lost season for Mizzou. Obviously, with Luther Burden last year, there was so much hype around the program, and the expectation was to make the college football playoff. You come back this year, you have your 2 quarterbacks. One of them goes down on literally the first drive of the season. Bo Pribula comes in. He looks the part. Obviously, the Alabama game was a loss, but it looked like that Missouri had a chance to knock off Vanderbilt before he got hurt. At this point, successful season now that you're on your 3rd-string quarterback.
Yeah, I think if they're able to get any wins down the stretch, a couple of wins here, get to 8 or 9, and then win their bowl game, that very successful. You got to remember what they lost. They lost NFL Rookie of the Year type offensive lineman. So they've had to retool that offensive line a little bit, even had to shift some of the guys mid-season. They lost their starting quarterback, also playing in the NFL right now, and had to figure out how to navigate a season with 3 guys who have played. And then star wide receiver left for the NFL. So, the Mizzou has had a lot of changes over the last year. The expectations should have still been as high as they were, because how are you going to become a big program if you don't have big expectations? Right. Mm-hmm. But Mizzou's had a lot of change, and the fact that they're at this point right now with 6 wins and a chance to finish out strong, I think they'll take that. And then you just got to hope that you win your bowl game, try to continue to get momentum going into 2026.
Absolutely. Before we flip to basketball, Coach Drink will be a part of a lot of conversations as it relates to hiring a new head football coach elsewhere. He's saying all the right things right now, but what would you be looking for from Coach Drink, from this team, to see where he gauges with his future, and if the words necessarily match the actions, and just some of the ways that it's a good problem to have, by the way. It's a good problem to have, to be able to be a guy that's coveted by other places. But what are some of the things you'll be looking out for as this next coaching carousel cycle begins?
Yeah, first things first is what Missouri does to try and say if they keep Drinkwitz. So they give him another extension. They gave him one back in February. We'll see if that comes to fruition first. You're not going to hear from Eli Drinkwitz is any talk about coaching carousel and moving to one team or another, or his coordinators moving to one team or another. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The Kirby Moore was rumored to have an interview with Arkansas, their offensive coordinator, and he shut that down real quick. He didn't want any talk about that in the news conference. He doesn't want any of that spilling into his locker room. And so, I don't expect him to address it all that much. And if it is brought up, he's just going to bring it down, because I think he truly does think about week to week what he can do to help out the Missouri Tigers. So, here's the thing, and I'm not going to say he's going to do it. And, I don't know what Eli Drinkwitz is thinking and what he wants, but, I always say the grass is always greener when you go out there and you mow your own grass and you water your own grass, right? Mizzou he's built up this program. The state loves him for what he's done. The Cotton Bowl, 2 bowl wins in a row, and built up a huge program, contending in the SEC. Why not continue to water your own grass in Mizzou? You go to Florida, you go to LSU, immediately you're going to run into fan bases that expect championships. They expect championships here in Missouri. They expect to be a big-time program, but at the very least, it's yours. Whereas you're inheriting something else from other coaches in the past who may have not had that much success. And so the pressures are immediately on to recruit, to have a ready-made team. And does Eli Drinkwitz want that? Or does he want to continue to build what he's building here in Mizzou and try to make this into a champion? We won't know until after the season what he's really thinking about, but something to ponder for the fans to think about.
Kevin, I tell you what, you and I are exactly aligned on what, in your case, you believe why Eli should stay at Mizzou. That's my same thought process with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Why would you want to go to LSU, Florida, where you're going to be expected to win championships all the time, whereas if you just stay at Ole Miss, I don't ever see a world where Ole Miss would fire Lane Kiffin. He's doing great over there. The program, Ole Miss, now you think of Ole Miss, you think of Lane Kiffin. If you go to LSU, Florida, you don't really think of Lane Kiffin at that point.
You're right, exactly. I agree with that. And I always think about what Mizzou was when when Barry Odom left the program, was let go. Gary Pinkel had built up an incredible program. It was always in the national conversation and whatnot. And, number one ranking in 2007. And, to see where it had gone with Barry Odom and to see it come back up to life with Eli Drinkwitz has been really cool to watch. And so I agree with you. The Lane Kiffins of the world, the Eli Drinkwitz of the world, you're doing such good jobs there in your communities. Is that really where you want? It could be. And it could be the
Right.
challenge that he needs to be able
Yeah.
to be successful in his career.
Absolutely.